hi, so I'm going to be making a rapid fire video here about how you can get away from the four biggest big tech companies: Crapple, Google, Microsoft, and Scamazon. So before we're going to get started, obviously we're going to need a web browser. Obviously, it's the gateway to everything else we're going to do here. So, first of all, don't use Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Crapple Safari anymore. There are a lot of alternatives that are based on either open source Chromium or on Gecko. And examples of both that I've come across include Opera, Vivaldi, Brave, Vanadium, plain Chromium, plain Firefox, LibreWolf, the Tor browser, and the Mullvad browser. Speaking of Mullvad, they also have a pretty good VPN I can definitely recommend and use every day when it works. On certain Wi-Fi networks it's blocked for some reason, but others, like the university Wi-Fi, it actually works fine. It only costs about €5 per month, and I'm not sponsored by them. Once we've got our VPN installed, let's our search engine to something like DuckDuckGo, which I used to use, but that's apparently American. So I'm going to go for the European ones of Ecosia or Quant. I ended up using Quant among those. Ecosia and Quant are actually working on their own search index as well, which is pretty neat. Now that we've got our browser figured out, let's go over to our cloud services. Now, again, stop using Google Drive, Crapple iCloud, or Microsoft OneDrive, which has actually become known as the cloud tumor since it literally grows inside your Windows system like a tumor growing in a cancerous person. So to get rid of those, there are a lot of alternatives out there. I used to use Infomaniac's K Drive, but since some bad shit came along about privacy towards the government, remember that? Privacy is not the same as totally animated towards your government, by the way. I decided to switch it over to Filen.io, which is a German company. And they work quite well. They also have a lot going for it when I need more storage, because you can stack up. That means you start with a referral code for 20 gigs, for instance, or even the default 15. And instead of renting a suite tier, which gives a fixed amount of storage, you simply rent the storage you need. Up to a certain point, I guess. So this is a pretty good way to get your cloud storage going. And then just move all your files and wait forever. Unless you have fiber internet. Next up, so we've done our internet experience on our cloud storage. I'm going to go through the next step, which is email. Which is a bit of a weirder one, because you're actually going to need to change your email address everywhere. I used to use Gmail for my accounts, but I would, again, stop Crapple Mail, stop Microsoft Outlook, stop Gmail. There are a lot of open source and free email systems. So first of all, install Thunderbird on all your devices where you use your private email. And then we're going to go and switch our email over to, for instance, Proton Mail, Infomaniac Mail, Tudor Mail, Cessna Mail for the Czechs among us, or Freedom Internet Mail for the Dutch among us. They're actually an ISP that it's well worth switching to if you can. I can't because I don't have my internet connection. I share one with my mom. So we've got that done. That's most of the way through. Now, I'm also going to continue all the way to operating systems because we've got most of this done. But let's first talk about the calendar. I would actually recommend you not put your calendar on there at all. It is very, very sensitive information that can tell you when you're at home and when you're away. So, I would actually keep my calendar locally. Either on a paper calendar, like the ones you'd hang on your wall or something, or using an open source application called Ether. I would only recommend the latter even, because you could lose your phone or something. Either your phone is very well secured, or you must keep track of calendar subscriptions, like the ones from your work or university. You can use DAVX or ICSX, which are both free and open source applications, just like Ether, to keep track of those in the same Ether application. Also, make sure to install and activate two-factor authentication on all your accounts when you can. So there is, of course, the Google Microsoft Authenticator. Don't use those. There's a lot of alternatives, and I use one called a FLAuth, Free Libre Authenticator. All of these applications can be found not on the Google Play Store, but on F-Droid, an open source repository. Please be aware, though, that Google is going to lock down, or at least restrict the ability to run applications from outside the Play Store. So now we get to operating systems. Of course, first of all, before we can switch our computer operating system, make sure we have either an x86 computer or an M1 Mac, or M series Mac. Anything Windows with Qualcomm has an exotic architecture and should not be used at all, because it makes Linux switching harder. That's exactly what I did a couple years ago. Switching over to Linux, I'm not going to tell you exactly which distribution you should go with, because that's a very personal choice, and there's a lot of debate on which is better. But I actually do use Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition at the moment. Once we've done that, let's talk about smartphones. Now, here is where things get very, very difficult, depending on which way you go. Let's actually talk about what a smartphone actually is. It's kind of like a computer in your pocket, and unfortunately, modern applications are demanding a lot of attention and data from you. So there's two ways you could go. Either you go for maximum security but do nothing about screen time, or I actually go for the latter, which is you're going to go to reducing your screen time with a reasonable amount of privacy. After all, using a smartphone, that's also pretty good for your privacy. So for the first one, the one that goes towards the left, there's really only one option at the moment, and that is buying a Google Pixel phone with Grafting OS. It's the most secure OS ever made, from what I can tell. And it can run Google Play services or Microg, which is an open source remake of that. Sandbox, so that it doesn't have system level permissions. However, as for reducing your screen time while maintaining reasonable privacy in mind, of course, there are also a couple of options. If you really, really, really only want to be calling and sending text messages, one of the Nokia Series 30 Plus phones is the classics. They're pretty good. I've also seen the HMD Barbie phone, which is also from the same company as those Nokia Classics. However, I'm going to want to have two-factor authentication and chat applications. Speaking of which, Signal is better than WhatsApp, but some people don't want to switch over to Signal at all. So that runs on, it used to be called DumbDroid, but now it's called Dumber OS. It's an Android version designed specifically for dumb phones, and it can be completely de-googled. So I would definitely get like the Dumber Mini, which is their new offering from DumbDroid, and means I'll support the project directly. And finally, let's talk a little bit about Scamadon. Just plain don't use it. There are a lot of better local options for getting what you need, and also, you know, when it comes to Amazon Prime, just cancel your subscription whenever you can. Even if it gives you access to movies and shows, I've actually gotten rid of all streaming services, and I would recommend you do the same for video. Just use DVDs. For YouTube, yeah, this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about what I would do. So first of all, on desktop computers, use FreeTube. On iPad, there's not an option yet, so I removed YouTube there completely. Now, on my smartphone, I also hid the YouTube app completely. I couldn't delete it yet because this is a smartphone with no degoogling. So, yeah, there's that. I actually use FourthTube on the 3DS. Pretty good option if you do have a 3DS. The quality is actually a bit worse, but that makes me use it a bit less than if it were on my phone. So going back to that phone situation, if you're going for a dumb phone, I would also get a basic secondary device in addition to that for more demanding tasks that don't work that well on a dumb phone. But just cancel the social media out and think what you really need a smartphone for. And then I would definitely go ahead and get myself a for completely Degoogling experience. I'm actually going to go for a Vala with Ubuntu Touch, which is not based on Android at all, not even the open source version of it, but rather based on Linux, and thus will interface really well with my Linux computer, just like how iPhones interface well with other Apple devices. Kind of the same thing really, because both Linux Mint and Ubuntu Touch, which I would add is the best Linux option if you're looking to completely de-Google, even beyond Graphing OS, or going for that. You know, it's the best option. It actually includes Wadroid, which allows you to install Android applications on the Vala phone or whatever without too much hassle. So yeah, that's a couple steps I would recommend, so I'm going to see you another time. Bye bye! I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do, please give a thumbs up and share this video with all your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.